Moving on to labor turnover and retention. What is labor turnover? It is defined as the number of people leaving an organization in a given period of time. So this is a very important metric when it comes to an organization's survival and when it compares itself to other organizations in the same industry. Now, how do you measure labor turnover? It is always expressed in terms of a percentage. The number of people leaving an organization divided by the number of people in the organization into 100 gives you a percentage. So there are various definitions available for crude labor turnover rate, which was described just now, labor stability, which is the number of people in the organization who are present divided by the number of people at the beginning of the year into 100. So that's your labor stability. But the labor stability rate does not take into account people who started their service in the middle of the year. So that is taken care by your survivor rate analysis. So these are the terms used in the industry to describe labor turnover. Labor turnover, or attrition rate as it is popularly called, is nowadays being used and described and used as a comparative tool in annual statements of companies. What are the causes of labor turnover? Illness and accident. An illness incident of an employee or some accident, workplace accident, will cut short his tenure in the organization. He might have to exit the organization. That is one of the normal reasons. Mobility. If you are shifting your office from point A to point B, it has got to have some effect on the mobility of employees. They might choose to leave. Changes to family situation. A childbirth or a death in the family or some other incident which has a significant importance and impact in the employees' lives might cause them to leave. Retirement. The attaining superannuation, employees are bound to leave. Career change. In line with the personal motivations and career aspirations, people will take a decision at certain points in their career and they move on. This is natural, and that is one of the leading causes of labor turnover. Other broad causes might be economic climate. Just as the big recession that we saw in 2008, the broader economic climate has a say in labor turnover. Age structure and length of service. What is the current age structure in your company? The ratio which is available to you. The youngsters versus the experienced people. What is the mix and length of service? How do you need to tune your pay systems according to the age structure? Now you have to make way for more insurance products, your social security benefits. So this has definitely a say in labor turnover rates. Now let's answer a fundamental question: is labor turnover a bad thing? Need not be. So the potential advantages are opportunities to inject new blood. Sometimes you need fresh air from outside, so to say. So you inject new blood into the organization. So it gives you a new dimension to objectives, to approaches. It gives you balance in the age structure. Opportunities for promotion, succession to the junior employees when people up the ladder move out due to various reasons. It gives an opportunity and thus an inherent motivation for junior level employees to scale up the ladder. That is an advantage. Ability to cope with labor surpluses. The natural wastage or attrition helps you to cope with labor surpluses to avoid any redundancies. Now, what are the disadvantages? Broken continuity of culture and succession. This is the single most disadvantage of attrition. Now, there is a culture which is set in the organization. The people who are new to the organization from outside take time to adjust, and in the process there is a little dilution in your overall culture. Time gap and replacement. In a dynamic business environment, you have to find the replacement within a short time frame so as to minimize any loss to the business. So there is a definite time gap, and which involves money, morale problems. When you see your colleague, your boss leaving your team, what you're bound to think is this the right place am I working? What is it providing me? Why am I not leaving? So why am I still here? These are the questions which any employee will ask of himself if his boss or his colleagues are leaving. turnover costs, replacement costs, and preventive costs. There is cost involved to this whole exercise. So, you have to find for a replacement, the lead time involved, training him for the job in hand, all this comes under replacement costs. Preventive costs, so your retention programs, your other reward programs which you have to put in place to avoid any attrition, comes under preventive costs. Now, as part of retention planning, we have to investigate, carry on a systematic investigation into the causes of turnover. Now, how this is done in a business environment in day-to-day practices through exit interviews. Any employee who resigns and who's serving his notice period is asked to undergo an exit interview. Just as a formal interview through which a candidate was selected, exit interview is as important to understand why this person is leaving the organization. Though it is a bitter pill to swallow, organizations need to do this exercise. Now, you have to find out what exactly is the reason. Though it might be hard to point out the exact reason, it might be because of a bad boss, but the reason stated in the exit interview might be a better career prospect or a better job offer, but in reality it could have been a negative incident in the workplace which could have been identified had the HR intervened at the right time. I hope any of you would agree with this. Attitude surveys, trying to gauge the exact attitude of the workforce from time to time to organizational changes. The measures which are being implemented is always healthy to arrest the outflow of people, the outflow of good talent. Information gathered on the number of variables. Business can control their operational measures based on the feedback which is got from the exit interviews and attitude surveys, so that they can formulate measures to control this outflow, and suitable procedures and policies can be put in place. Moving on. Everything needs to be evaluated, and so should be human resource planning. Now, critics ask, how reliable is human resource planning? Because forecasting is never an exact science. So, what is the level of accuracy that human resource planning provides? Element of guesswork can be substantially reduced by computer models. With the advance in computer technology and statistical models, you can predict to a great extent you can reduce the guesswork involved in human resource planning. General principles can be applied for problem solving and to stimulate action when it comes to human resource planning. Another fundamental question is that, is HRP working in practice? And how this needs to be checked is through human resource audit. An HR audit is an investigation into current structure, size and productivity of your HR practices, your HR policies, and into your HR population. Actual staffing levels and trends. HRA should focus on actual staffing levels and trends, whether it is in line with the overall business objective. Now, HR records need to be scrutinized. Are all the papers in place? Are the practices being followed? Is it consistent and is it legal? And staff utilization, is it falling within the broad ambit of the business objective, whether staff are utilized or underutilized, or is there any surplus? So HR audit will reveal all these sensitive points. Is HRP cost effective? No. Cost benefit analysis needs to be carried out. What is the cost involved in all these HR efforts versus the obvious benefits that is proposed or that is being received as part of the HR planning? Cost of an actual measure versus benefits. Say for example, what is the training program that you've given for employees and what is the improvement in the productivity level? This is your cost versus benefit. So all HR measures needs to be evaluated on these lines, in line with your broader objectives. Uses of cost benefit analysis. You will get to know what is the total cost of the plan. The top management will come to know what is my total financial outlay for this entire effort. Now, when you come to know the total cost, you can have comparisons and you can go for options. Comparison of cost with other options. whether you can go for outsourcing or you want to do it in-house. These are the options available based on the human resource planning. Cost effectiveness, whether this effort will give you the intended results with the least amount of cost involved. So the overall aspect of cost effectiveness is delivered through HR planning. Moving on. So once your HR planning is done, action plans need to be developed. So action plans can be on these lines. The resourcing plan, how best your human resources can be planned. What is your strategy for utilizing your human resource? What is your internal resource, the availability, the numbers, the skill, the competence levels involved for your business goals? The recruitment plan, what is your external recruitment strategy, what is your internal transfer strategy, so that all forms part of the recruitment plan. The training plan, what is the training, the learning and development plan for your organization for this particular period? It needs to be clearly specified. The redevelopment plan or the redeployment plan, so what in certain scenarios your excess staff, how are you going to redeploy them? That is taken care by the redevelopment plan. The flexibility plan, any contingency should have a backup or a flexible plan in place in which resources can be diverted and the contingencies and the situations can be handled. The productivity plan, what is your productivity plan for the year and what the HR needs to do to revert and respond to this productivity plan. The downsizing plan, in the worst case scenario in an adverse business climate, how do you respond to this by having a downsizing plan? In what ways within legal framework, how do you downsize and still maintain employee morale and motivation and carry on with the business? That is brought out by the downsizing plan. And the retention plan, what are the monetary rewards and the fringe benefits and other programs that you have in place to motivate and retain people in the organization. So this sums up the typical elements of human resource plan.